right, this is chapter 8, lesson 2, and I'm on page 307. Everybody turn to page 307. Everybody turn to page 307, please. Okay, I've already taught a lot of this. However, this lesson deals with composition. That means composition really is addition, like more than one. All right? So just looking at the top figure. All right, what is ABC? What type of transformation is ABC to A prime, B prime, C prime? Yes. It's a reflection. That is correct. All right. What is A prime, B prime, C prime to A double prime, B double prime, C double prime? It's also a reflection. So we have two reflections, right? We reflect here to here, then we reflect here to here. So you agree this is two reflections, right? Here to here is a reflection, and here to here is a reflection. Okay, now, let's take away the middle. What's the first to the last?
Translation.
It's a translation. Do you see that?
So if you double reflect it, it's a translation.
Two reflections through parallel lines is a translation. Got it? These lines have to be parallel. So two reflections, not T, Paula. It's an L. Two reflections through parallel lines, that equals a translation. Got it? Two reflections through parallel lines equals translation. Okay. All right, lines have to be parallel. So what's composition? That means two of these reflections. Okay. Now, let's look at the bottom. What is ABC to A prime, B prime, C prime?
Reflection.
It's a reflection. You see that? It's a reflection. Does everybody see that? Okay, now, what is A prime, B prime, C prime to A, B, C double prime? Yeah.
Rotation. What, also a reflection?
What do you think? It's a reflection. But the reflection is through this line that's sort of slanted, right? So C stays there, A reflects across here, B reflects across here. So now we still have two reflections, right? But what's different with this one? How is this reflection, the composition of this reflection, different from these two reflections?
It can also be a rotation.
From the first one to the last one, from the first one to the last one is a
That's a rotation.
rotation. But we did two reflections, just like we did two reflections up here. But one's a translation and one is from 1 to 3 ends up being a rotation. So what's the difference between this one and this one? How can two reflections result in a translation here, but two reflections here result in a rotation? There's one difference. What's the difference between here and here? Yes? They're not parallel. That is correct. In order for it to be a translation, the two reflections have to be through lines of reflection that are parallel to one another. For two reflections to be a rotation, it's through lines that are not parallel. You see that? So two reflections through lines that are not parallel. What does that yield us? A rotation. Got it? And that's what this lesson is about. So there's one more concept, and it's called magnitude. Magnitude. What does that word mean? Really, in most of math, it's angle. But when the lines are parallel, it's not angle. So the magnitude is the distance from the first one to the last one. So the magnitude here would be the distance between B and B double prime. This would be the magnitude. Got it? Any point on the original image to its image, exact image in the final one. The magnitude could also be A to A double prime. It'd be the same magnitude. It better be the same magnitude or else it's a dilation. You've changed something. And the same distance C to C double prime. Get it? Do you understand magnitude? It's how far I move it, right? If it's a translation, it's how far, the distance that I move it. Okay, it's different when the lines are not parallel. It's an angle, and that's what most of math, when we're talking about magnitude, it's the angle. So when the lines are parallel, the magnitude is more like the distance. When the resultant figure is a translation, it's like the distance between the original and the image. When it's a rotation, it's an angle, the angle. So it will be the angle, like here from B, from this original B to B prime. That will be my magnitude. Whatever the measure of that angle would be. Do you see the difference in magnitude in the first one, the rotation, the translation, compared to the rotation? Translation, it's inches, centimeters, however you measure it, right? When it's a rotation, it's degrees. How many degrees did we rotate it? Does that make sense? These three concepts are the only new concepts in this lesson. Okay, composition of two reflections can result in different transformations from the first to the last. And the magnitude is just really the distance we rotate it. It's the length or it's the angle at which we rotate it. Okay?